This is going to be yet another video about the Victorian stairwell makeover, and in this video we're going to talk about the landing, specifically the flooring of the landing. And then at the end of the video I'm going to have us painting the bottom half of the walls green. So I hope you enjoy it. So we wanted to remove the floor that was already there because it was really dodgy old laminate wooden flooring. Badly fitted in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s. Really loud and noisy. It was all kind of creaky. There were gaps in the different planks, terrible little bits of wooden strip moulding to try and hide that gap. Nice.
Underneath it's just a panel, it's just wood.
We also found, when lifting the floor, little scraps of original lino, and this was probably the best piece. This was directly under our threshold strip. Sam gave it a little clean. It's actually quite nice. And it's funny to think that all these years later we're going to put something really similar back in. Lino actually is quite a old-fashioned product, and it's quite a good option for, you know, sound insulation and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, it made us feel like we've picked the right thing.
So this bit of the floor was very bowed in the middle, and all the floorboards were rocking like this, so we've decided to lift them and flatten them a bit.
Because we'll need to put a subfloor in before...
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go for like a lino on the top.
All of these floorboards, they're not very nice anyway, they're quite woodworm.
Yeah, so you
woodworm
can see the woodworm.
Not active woodworm, but it's old. They're all actually quite brittle. If we could get them flat, then we could start the next stage.
So once we took up all the laminate and we saw the wooden boards underneath, it would have been there when the flat was first built, they actually looked quite nice. Sadly, because of the woodworm, the boards were very brittle and just kind of were all crumbling apart. We did actually sand a test patch just to see how it would come out. I'll put a photograph of that in for you to see. Yeah, if it wasn't for the woodworm, I think we would have just kept the boards and sanded them and given them a coat of Osmo, and honestly think that that looked a lot better than what we ended up getting. The floor.
I'll get a torch.
It's just rock. Huge pieces of rock. Yeah, and that, yeah, that's great. That's directly under our house. It just looks like a cave, like a big void. It'll be the joists, and then it's like they've just filled the gaps with rock and rubble. I'm not entirely sure.
It even looks like cement, actually.
Does it? Yeah.
Concreted.
It's very odd. Oh yeah, and you found that old cable in there, which might be why that board was popped open.
It wasn't nailed down properly, and the joists have been cut away to fit it all back in.
So it was really cool that we found an original piece of vinyl flooring. That was what we were considering putting in ourselves. We really liked the look of the Amtico Goldstone because it looked quite vintagey, it had a bit of a mint-in hall tile kind of look, and I think it's sort of based on a Victorian hall tile pattern. I can't actually remember if the Amtico is considered a luxury vinyl tile or a linoleum, but either way it's kind of in that camp of types of flooring. The reason we wanted the vinyl was because very noisy before with the laminate. Lino would be a lot softer underfoot, be sound deadening, much easier for us to clean. Yeah, linoleum is actually a really old product and it was invented in the 1860s and it was used extensively on the Titanic. And there is still linoleum on the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean to this day. That tells you a lot about the durability of it. You can also see some of the tiles in museums. I think they have them on display in certain places. That's like a little piece of lino that survived the Titanic sinking. So that's pretty cool. So that type of linoleum that the Titanic used, where it's a parquet style and each individual tile is glued down, that's kind of what Amtico Goldstone is like. We thought, let's treat ourselves to something that's really high quality and really looks the part. The company that we picked was Gillis in Perth. Amtico is the kind of product where you have to buy it through an affiliated installer, which is what Gillis were. We installed it so badly, so we're really disappointed. The opposite of the cherry on top of the cake. It's kind of like the dead fly on top of the cake. I'll show you some video footage of everything that's wrong with it. Okay, so this is the flooring that Gillis installed. And it's made by Amtico, and the pattern is called Amtico Goldstone. I'll just show you up close. I have no problem with this product. My issue is with the way it's been installed. I'll just explain quickly about Amtico first. All of these pieces are individual pieces of lino. That's what I meant when I was talking about the lino on the Titanic. It's this kind of idea where each piece is an individual little section and it's glued down to the subfloor. And it means that you get this sort of tile effect because there's a real groove in between each tile. So that's really cool and that's what we wanted. You might think, oh, this floor looks really nice. There are a lot of problems with how it's been installed. This bit here is the bullnose that they've added. So it's just like a black strip that kind of caps the edge. This has got nothing to do with Gillis. We've still not finished this part. But yeah, so this bullnose was supposed to go all the way along. Instead, they just left it. And they were acting like, oh, it's too hard. We can't go around the balusters. So this section here, they decided to not bother with adding any bullnose at all, which it looks god-awful. And you can see how flapping and loose all of the flooring is. And the subfloor is exposed, and all of the original wooden floor, and all the old nails. And it just looks like a mess. And it also means that this is exposed to the elements. The really bad laminate that we removed, even that had a piece of bullnose going across the balusters, and they'd cut the space for these to go through. And they also told us that this wouldn't be an issue, and then just left it like that. If they've got access to a workshop, they'll have a bandsaw, the ability to cut around these balusters. It's just complete laziness, and no excuse for it. So you can see where it just stops here, like that. When the guys were here installing it, they said that they didn't have the right sized hammer to put the little black caps on the screws here. So these are supposed to be covered with a little bit of black plastic. And he said, oh, we'll come back and do that. And they haven't. They've just left it. They haven't centred the design at all. For some reason they thought it would be a good idea for the stars to just end like this, whereas the square is supposed to be the end of the border. That isn't even a design. It's not even a half star. It looks so stupid. A full star here, and then this is just cut off. They've decided to put an excess of border in. These corners have not been mitered. So we've just got this ugly strip jutting into here, and then this bit jutting into here. Look at that tiny slither that they've added. So we don't just have an excess of border, we've got an entire border strip plus a sliver of border. It would make more sense to put the complete tile in here and then leave the border up to the edge. Leave us without all of these horrible little cuts, or leaving gaps all around the skirting. The guy that came out specifically told us that this wouldn't be a problem. I asked him if we would need some kind of a strip here where the flooring would meet the skirting. And he said, no, it fits flush to the skirting, you won't need to worry about that. It looks terrible. This huge gap between the Amtico and the skirting. And this has been fitted so poorly that it actually touches here and gaps out here. And you can see the little hole there as well. Their excuse for that was, oh, but it's an old property and your walls aren't perfectly straight. But this is a customisable flooring and it can be cut or scribed to fit exactly. When they quoted us the job, they said that that wouldn't be an issue. Cut off stars. It just looks awful. Double border. It's just hideous. Again, no mitering from the corners, so we end up with these ugly additional lines. And again, look at how misaligned this is here, with huge gaps. There's also a lot of glue marks coming up between some of the tiles, which I don't know if they'll come up on video. There's a little bit there. But it's just such a bad job. There's another example of a little gap, a tiny slither, no mitering, and again, right on the edge, cut off half star. You probably can't see this on the video because of the shadow. The bullnose doesn't even cover the end of this strip. So we're currently in a dispute with Gillis about this, but they are holding fast and claiming that this is good work. Claiming that this is good work. It's actually Gillis's job to provide us with a CAD drawing for approval, which they never did, and this is supposed to go through Amtico, so they skipped that whole step, and it meant that what we ended up getting was just made up on the spot on the day. Sam actually made a CAD drawing. He did one on Photoshop. I'll put in Sam's drawing and I'll compare it to what we've got. And one last thing is, this is an area where it hasn't even stuck down correctly. This whole section here by the front door, it just flaps up. But now I just wish we'd done it ourselves. We spent a lot of money on the Amtico and it wasn't worth it at all. I do think that Amtico is a really good flooring. I think it's just, in our case, it's been badly installed, sadly. The install was not worth the money at all. Hopefully we can have it refitted or improved. Gillis are not keen, so we're in this process with the Ombudsman at the moment to figure out what's going to happen. If we end up stuck with the floor, that's just a live and learn kind of situation, and we'll know not to use Gillis ever again. So for the walls, we decided to paint the bottom half of the stairwell green, a crown trade gloss, and the colour is called the Botanist, and that was what all of us in the flat agreed on. I do like the green, but I actually wanted the walls to be pink. So as with the magnolia, I did the cutting in and then Sam used the roller. And we used the same method with just your bog standard masking tape. Really making a mess when I'm cutting in over the tape. It's because I don't have to worry about any of that paint leaking through. When you put the masking line on a gloss wall, gloss paint is very slippery, so any paint that wants to overlap, it just doesn't. The masking tape is just enough of a barrier for it to stop. We really are almost finished with it, but there is a little bit left to do. Kind of things like neatening edges and areas where the green paint has touched the black skirting, and we still have a lot of stenciling to do. I've sort of brought everything almost up to the present day now, get warm enough for us to want to venture out into the stair again and finish the job. Thanks for watching, I'll have another video out soon.